the ANC's finances? And I'll start by asking you broadly, is the ANC in trouble financially?
No, the ANC is not in trouble financially. A few weeks ago, I made a statement that the ANC is not a rich organization, but it's not an organization that's facing liquidation. It's an organization that relies on support from its members and supporters and donors, and therefore it will always be an organization which will go out there and seek people to make contribution to support it. Our members make their own contributions, our supporters make contributions in different forms, other members make contributions in kind, and some make themselves volunteers and avail themselves. And that is really what we pledged when we joined the ANC, to make available all our technical expertise, our energies, our resources to help the organization to grow. And that's really where it is. You have seen a number of stories that have been pitched in the newspapers. Some of it really are issues where, when we sit and plan, we have to look at reality of things that need to be paid for, funds that need to be raised. And if somebody leaks that and it gets out in public, it might create an alarmist picture, which I think has been easily distorted by the media. But in reality, the ANC's finances have never been better.
So where there has been smoke, there has really been no fire?
No, the issue is a lot of things that are released to the media would be distorted. Most of the issues of finances, from far as the ANC is concerned, are internal matters. So we don't go out and release statements, as it were. But it's not that it's secretive stuff, as it were.
And those people who have taken you to court, including the ANC Youth League, for payments that were not received for work done?
No. Yes, there have been a number of court cases. They arise from two instances. Most of the time when there are transactions, you have to make certain terms for payment, and if the circumstances change, you have to communicate with your creditors and rearrange. Now, a lot of times when there's miscommunication, the only resort that people have is to go to court. You'll have noticed that many of those who have actually sorted out the communication, and therefore they've been moved out of court, and we're sorting out those kinds of problems. With the Youth League, the challenge was with the Youth League leadership that was suspended, and it was a little ill-disciplined in the way it dealt with issues. And so we were now following up on issues, some of which were not properly recorded, and so even those we've actually dealt with them, and they've actually been settled. So all we say is we get into arrangements with our service providers, and then we settle our issues. Where we have to delay settlement, we have to communicate with them. But that's a normal way how business works, and there's no difference. It's not different from the ANC. What we really believe should not be exaggerated is that the ANC is not like a company that is selling its things and therefore has got a specific cash flow on the basis of revenue and products sold and so on. It doesn't work like that. But it works like any non-governmental organization. Essentially, that's what we are, an NGO.
Now, there are people who believe that where you receive money, you are bound to be indebted to the people who are giving you money. And calling some for a disclosure of people who fund political parties, so that it is clear who then, in the event you drive certain agendas and it happens to be, or your agenda happens to be aligned to the agenda of your funders, so that the public can see for themselves what the reality is. What is the ANC's stance on the funding of political parties, in particular the disclosure of people who fund political parties?
The first thing we must sort out is that there's a trend which is growing in the country. If someone is in any way linked to the ANC and they're involved in any transaction, it's deemed to be corrupt. It's incorrect. The ANC can't just be excluded from anything. Anyone who's got association with the ANC has just as much a right to participate in any transaction, and that's where we stand. Secondly, we've also put a stand that if anybody makes a contribution to the ANC, it's not a transactional act. You contribute expecting no returns, and that we make very clear, and that's where we stand. Thirdly, there is not and one entity that can have so much resources as to sustain the ANC to such an extent it can influence the way the ANC's thinking goes. We've got 5,000 branches that determine policy. We cannot have one entity that can come in and say the ANC must move in this direction or not. And so where we stand is we agree that there will be a degree of transparency that is needed, and we have got no issue with that. In fact, we have been moving and piloting a discussion on issues of how to make sure that there is no conflict of interest towards our resolution from Mangaung. And we say the ANC should not get involved in contracts with government because that will create a sense of conflict of interest. But where we have a problem is when people feel the ANC should not get much political parties must not get so much support from the fiscus. At the same time, they cannot also participate in financial, commercial transactions. So there has to be a balance there. I think we need to get that discussion, but we've got no problem with transparency to the extent to which it prevents any corruption, because it helps us as a party that there should be clear, accountability on the finances.
Well, that was my next question. What is the ANC's attitude towards the funding of political parties? Do you believe, for example, that political parties should get more money than they are getting at the moment from the national fiscals?
I think we need a blend of two things. On the one side, I think there should be more funding for the political parties, simply on the basis that the basis of our constitution is party political representation, which is proportional representation, which is based on political parties, and therefore they are the foundation on which the political system works, and there has to be funded. And there's a cost to democracy, and the fiscus has to actually lay out the resources to sustain the democracy at the political party level. That's the one aspect. The other aspect is that there are lots of plans, programs, strategies that the political parties might want to participate in, wherein the fiscus might have restrictions in terms of being able to support, in which case therefore there must be a leeway to organize collateral funding from private contributors, and that is the case. But also it is important also that we must protect the confidentiality of those who make contribution. If someone wants to say, I've given ANC 100 Rand, it must be their right. If they do not wish to be known, it must be their right. And it's also not true that that is a problem for opposition parties that their supporters will be punished by the ruling party. It's the opposite, actually. I think that leaders, donors to the ANC stand a chance of being heavily scrutinized, followed up by the media, investigated, and so on. All we say is that where someone has got wrongdoing, they must be properly investigated by the law and the institutions of justice, so that there's no corruption, there's transparency, and that everything is done above board. And so where we stand, we're standing on transparency and accountability.
Any thoughts on should political parties get twice what they are getting, 10 times what they are getting?
Well, I think that they need to get more. We can sit down and do the figures, but I think they need to get more. And for me, I think also the public at some point needs to have a sense what it really costs to run a political party, because it's a huge enterprise to run. As far as the ANC is concerned, it actually is a multi-million expenditure that we run every year. The other parties will not disclose, and they try and project that as the ANC, but I can challenge them to come up and put on the table what they spend. We have actually in the past said that we spent more than 400 million rand on the elections, but I want the other parties to own up. Can they say the same? They will not say so, but everybody's focusing on the ANC. We don't mind that, but we say everybody must get the same level of scrutiny.
And to someone who says, but resources are not limitless, we have a huge backlog. There's still people who have no water, no sanitation, who have no houses, who don't have any jobs. Why take that money and give to political parties? Political parties should find their own ways of raising their money. In fact, even take the money that you're giving them already and actually put those resources to actually delivering more and more social services to citizens.
That's a good point. And I think that when we deal with the fiscus, we need to be sensitive to that. And so it's not like from where we sit, we're demanding. We're just simply making a point that we should not criminalize the financing of political parties, because that is not correct. However, you can't say the fiscus can't give funds, the funds as the parties need but you also don't want the parties to participate in commercial transactions which are clean, transparent, and accountable. At the same time, you want everybody to say, who did you give money to, and everybody must follow them up and ask them questions, and you follow them with the media and everything, and make everybody restless. There has to be a balance somewhere. All we're talking about, let's have a balance.
Treasurer General of the ANC, Dr. Zweli Mkhize, thank you very much for enlightening us on these matters. Well, people are still coming into the stadium, but as the Deputy Secretary General of the ANC told us earlier, there was a problem at the beginning. Security checks, buses not allowed to come too close to the stadium. All those things, she was telling us, are responsible for the delay that we are seeing. But slowly but surely people are trickling in, and the program has indeed begun in earnest. For now though, we're going to go